What you think and how you think impacts your running. Today we're going to delve into that. We're going to come out on the other side with some strategies to improve your thinking, to improve your running, and you're going to find out why I don't listen to music or podcasts when out running. What do you think about when running? Your physical capabilities are extremely important. How you use those physical capabilities is dependent on how you think. Have you ever had a race or a hard run that's hurting, that you want to do well at? There comes that point, you just back off, feel like you've got nothing more to give, and you slow right down. You look back on that, you know you could have gone harder. You know you could have kept that pace going, but you stopped. Well, that's an example of how you think impacting how you run. On the other hand, when you have those races that just feel like you can do nothing wrong, when it feels like you're not thinking at all, your focus is only on what matters, and despite knowing that you're going fast and hard, there's almost an easiness or naturalness to it. That is an example of how your thinking can improve your running. And it's that feeling that we chase. And it's a big reason why I run long distances and hard events. I'm chasing that feeling. It enhances everything. It helps me feel extra alive. Every runner gets asked, what do you think about when running? My usual answer is everything and nothing, which is true and accurate, but there's a lot more to it than that answer. Now, before you get worried that I'm going to tell you to concentrate really hard on all your runs and have laser-like focus all the time, I'm not. It's not how this works. In my own running, like most of my runs, I just go out and run. Don't think about it too much, and the thoughts are whatever. The thoughts are just the same as if you're walking down the street, sitting there doing nothing in particular, just taking in the sights, thinking random things, and that's it. Cute dog. And that's an example of what I was talking about. My thoughts really just involved the dog. Still running, but not thinking about running. That basic thinking is actually important. Think of it as your super easy runs, that real low intensity that sets the groundwork for when you want to start adding more to your endurance. You can think of it like your easy walks. You still get a benefit from it. It's not really the key to being able to run further and faster, and that's the next section. And the next step is to have an awareness about your thoughts. You don't judge your thoughts. You don't get stuck on them too much. You don't follow the trail heavily where they go. If your mind is fairly blank and empty, that's actually a good thing. Just get used to being aware of your thoughts. Don't judge them. Don't go, oh, that's a bad thought. Oh, that's a good one. I want to hold on to that. Just be aware of the content. Nothing more. Almost as if you're passively watching TV. Despite trying not to judge your thoughts, I will say some judgment eventually creeps in, and that might not be such a bad thing. Where we want to take it from here is that awareness of your thoughts after a period of time, and I'm talking weeks. Observe your thoughts over all different types of running sessions. Your easy runs, your fast runs, your long runs, and everything in between. Take notice, but let them flow. You'll start to become aware of patterns. Understanding these patterns is where you can work on your techniques to improve how and what you think. And the patterns you want to look out for are, one, what kind of thoughts are you having when your runs aren't going well? Or more to the point, what are your thoughts before your run starts to fall apart? Next is the opposite as well. What are your thoughts during those runs that go well? During the hard runs, the runs that just seem right. you can start identifying the times when you're in the thought patterns that don't work too well for you. This is where the next lot of techniques come into play to interrupt those thought patterns and try and turn it around. Now, it's not easy. It's not something you just learn a quick technique and all of a sudden you're running so much better. This takes time, takes practice, and it's like physical training. You don't become a better runner after just a couple of sessions. Working on your mind, you can incorporate that into your runs themselves, which is what I like to do. Now, the technique that seems to work the best for me, or most often when I'm identified that I'm going down a negative thought process, is to throw in a cue that can get me back on track. So, what do I mean by a cue? You can call a cue a trigger or a prompt or a keyword or phrase. And all it is, it's simply something that triggers you or cues you to focus on something else. So for example, one thing that I find, my negative thoughts tend to go on my technique, about how my running is going shuffling, my legs are tired, they're stiff, I'm not getting the spring I want, or anything like that. It can snowball, and I start believing that my technique's no good, and along those lines it tends to keep going downhill at a much faster rate. So my cue in this case, I have two of them. One is smooth and the other is strong. Usually I go with smooth, and smooth just helps me ease up, relax a bit more, and I'll start improving my technique. Just that alone triggers me into reminding that I can have a smooth running technique. I've demonstrated it before. I've got a good strong history of working on my technique, and smooth really helps me trigger me and get me back into that thought process, and automatically I start running a bit better. My technique improves, my thought process tends to turn around. Now, I tend to use strong when the going is quite tough, in particular when I'm running up hills or a really technical leg thrashing course, and I remind myself that I'm strong. Using strong reminds me I've done the work in the gym, I've done the conditioning, I've been working on the plyometrics, the hill work, to make myself strong to be able to handle this. Take the time to develop some cues. It sounds overly simple. Usually it's my go-to strategy to get me out of a negative funk in my mindset or my thinking when out running and racing. It's not the only technique. It leads me to the next technique, which I find isn't just a one-hit wonder. By focusing on this technique, you develop a stronger thought process in general, and I find I have less times when I have those negative thought processes during running and racing. I call this technique constraints, simplifying and narrowing your focus. It's getting rid of all of the distractions and getting you to focus on either a single point or a small task that's the most important, and letting everything else take care of themselves. If we look at a lot of my runs, I limit the feedback that I have in them. If we look at today's long run, it's a 2.5 hour run in the hills, on some trails, on some country roads, and I want to keep a certain intensity level, and that's my focus. I've got my watch set just purely on heart rate, with a heart rate limit of 137. So as soon as that heart rate goes above 137, my Garmin sounds an alarm, and I'll just back it off a bit. I'm not looking at pace, I'm not looking at time. It is an out and back course, and I've set an alarm to turn around at the halfway mark. The constraint is only heart rate. Being able to use constraints in races takes some preparation, to be honest, and you've got to develop your plan to be able to use it. And my best example, when racing a marathon, you break the race up into manageable chunks. So it might be every 5 kilometre split, every kilometre split. So what you need to know is what pace you need to hold to hit your goals in that. But then the preparation comes back to, in training, develop that understanding of what it feels like to run at those paces. What you'll do during the marathon is take a 5 kilometre split, And during that time, focus on that feeling. The constraint is the feeling of running. Run in the way that you've practiced to get you that split. Double check that split, make sure your feedback is right, but you'll be surprised at how the simplicity of it will get you there. I also have a key technique. That's my favourite. When I say it might sound a bit facetious, easier said than done. The key in it is the simplicity. It takes work to get to be able to do it well. Some people find it easier than others, but it really works if you genuinely give it a shot. And this technique I'm talking about, let's just call it for what it is. Just do it. You have the task, you have your goal. Go out and do the work to achieve it. It doesn't matter if you're tired, you're sore, you've got your negative thoughts, your positive thoughts, what others think. Just go out and put in the effort and try to achieve it. It reduces your thought process. It stops you thinking as much. It helps clear the mind so you can just go through the process of doing. It can take a lot of practice and a lot of work to get there. Once you're in there, you're in that focus, maybe hit that flow state in the zone more often, more predictably, and you're getting the task done, and you'll be surprised. You might get more out of yourself than you expect. Take your interval sessions, a somewhat hard run, whatever it is, and make a point of doing that run regardless of how you feel. So regardless of what you're thinking, regardless of I'm too tired, it's too hot, it's too whatever, just go out and try and achieve it anyway, regardless. You won't achieve it every time, you won't hit the times you want every time. What you're doing is you're practicing and creating a habit of going out and putting in the effort to achieve that goal, even when things aren't optimal, when things aren't going 100% right. You'll get used to putting in the work to achieve it. So I see training the mind, training your thoughts, as just part and parcel of training for endurance races. Training for what we do, running. Running provides me a form of moving meditation. I've definitely had some of my best races because my mind has been the strong part. I've exceeded my physical training. I've exceeded what the physical predictors, measurements in the labs have said I should be able to do. I've surprised many people. And I've just had races where my mind works. That's when I get the best out of myself. And it's that feeling that I do chase, which leads us to listening to podcasts, stories, audio books, or music when out running. I don't do it. The main reason I don't do it is I love that awareness. I love developing my thoughts. It gives me that time to work on it. Now, there's plenty of evidence that listening to music and using music can help you improve your performance. It's just that I take a different tact. Music is powerful. It makes us feel. It inspires us. It brings more out of ourselves. There's definitely good reason to use music when out training, when out racing. However, for myself, I tend to enjoy doing my sessions without it a lot more. That's the main reason why I do it. So if you enjoy your music, if you enjoy your podcasts, listen to it while you run. But have a few sessions where you work on your thinking without it. You may surprise yourself. So let's bring it back around. What do you think about when running? How do you think while you're running? Let me know. I'm very interested. Do you use any of these techniques? Do you have a different approach? I'd love to learn from you, and I'd love to know if any of this is helpful. Let me know and keep on running.